And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vassell.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Zee Garcia. How you doing?
Today we're taking a look at Nevermore, which is from... I don't think that's how Raven says it. Yeah. Which is from Smirk and Dagger. Now, Smirk and Dagger is known for the games where basically you're like, hey, Zeke! And that's really... Well, it's too late, you're dead. But that's what they're known for. They veered from that occasionally. This does not veer from that. This definitely, you're going to be able to go after other players, but it has drafting. Ooh, I like drafting. Let's look at it.
At the beginning of the game, each player is going to get 5 health and a health token. Each player is, you're going to put some tokens out here. Each player also gets a shadow magic card. And then you're going to take a big deck of cards. In this deck of cards, there are different types of cards. There are victory point cards, there are healing cards, there are raven cards, there are attack cards, and there are radiance cards. So you'll shuffle these, and each player is going to get 5 of them. And then you're going to look at these 5. You're going to choose 3 of them, pass them to the next player. When you get the 3 from the next player, you'll look at those, pick 2, pass them on, add them to your hand, take your hand of 5, and then pass once. You pass 3, then 2, then 1. You pass them in the direction of this, and this will change every turn from left to right to left to right. After everyone has their final hand of cards, the first thing you check, does anyone have 5 ravens? Now, ravens are normally bad, but if you have 5, that's awesome. Everyone else would take 1 damage. You would get a victory point, and you'd get a shadow magic card, and the round's over. Everyone gets rid of their cards. 5 ravens is good. Other than that, ravens can be bad, and I'll explain that in a moment. You then will look at attack cards. Everyone reveals how many attack cards they have. Whoever has the most will deal damage to another player. They'll deal damage minus the second most. So if I have 3 of these attack cards and someone else has 1, the second highest has 1, I will do 2 damage to another player. If I have 2 and Joe has 2 and no one else has any, we take 2 minus 0. We would both do 2 damage to another player. Healing cards are done the same way. Players will reveal their healing cards, and so the highest player who has healing cards will subtract the second highest, and that's how many points they heal, and ties are done the same way. Radiance cards are done the same way, except that the winner will get light magic cards equal to the difference between the highest and the lowest. Victory point cards are done the same way, except the winner will get victory points. There's also some special things, like if you do 4 damage to somebody, you can instead attack everybody for 1 damage point. If you're at 5 health and you heal 3 or more points, you get a victory point. If you play 5 radiance cards, you get 2. You heal 2 points and you get a victory point. So there's some like outliers if you get a lot of one kind. Now, raven cards are bad. I told you that. Every time you have a raven card, you have to play these, and they will cancel out one of your other cards. So maybe it's time for Radiance, and I have a raven. Well, I'll do this. I'll play these 3 cards, but I really only have 1 Radiance cards. You have to play your ravens. If you have 1 or 2, that's what's going to happen. If you have 3 or 4, you're not only going to cancel out your other cards, but you'll have some leftover ravens at the end, and those leftover ravens they're called skulking ravens, and so you'll deal with them here, and the skulking ravens will basically let you draw shadow magic cards. Now, shadow magic cards and light magic cards can be played at different times. The shadow magic are basically better than light ones. Here you can play, no one drafts this turn, play this anytime for 2 health. Play before the resolution phase, everyone passed their hand to the player who gave them cards this time, and so on. Shadow magic cards are just basically the same thing, but bigger than that. Play before resolution. The effect of this suit shown on this tile is reversed. Play before resolution begins. Your raven cards do not nullify other cards this turn. Steal 1 healing card from an opponent when they're revealed, etc. Now, after the round is over, you will take these 4 tiles and you will shuffle them up and put them out in a possibly different order for the next round. You'll take 5 cards and draft them the other way. You will continue to do this until when the player's health is out, they turn into a raven. And if everyone is ravens except for 1 player, the only player left, that player human, is the winner of the game. If someone gets 6 victory points, they will also win the game. And then finally, when you're a Raven, you will do some things differently. The light magic cards, they have a Raven part on them, cancel any light magic card. And you don't get points or do anything, but if you have more than everybody else in a certain suit, when you're a Raven player, you can peck the second highest person, doing a damage to them. And if you're a Raven player and you manage to peck the remaining human players to death, then you win the game. So there are 3 ways to win.
First of all, I like the look of this game.
Yeah, it's definitely got a very stark look to it. This cover is intriguing, if nothing else. And you don't know the story of the game if you pick up the box and that's all you know, but it is a person turning into a bird, and this is the remainder of that person. So the eyeball and the little bit of skin around the eyeball is still human.
That's really gross. Now look at it.
Kind of creepy.
Yeah, but I mean, the cards themselves, I like how the 5 different cards in the main deck are just a picture. Very easy to tell.
Yes.
For drafting purposes, you're like, oh, I don't sit there and go, let me look at all these cards. There's a little of that with the special cards.
Right.
But for the most part, it's like, okay. And the drafting works really well. And when I said at the beginning that you have 5, getting 5 Ravens, that's not as hard as it sounds.
I've tried. I've yet to pull it off, but I've been close. But it's it's like one of those, like, I'm going to go for it this round. I drew 2.
Okay, well,
or I drew 3. I'm going to keep those 3, whatever. It's like you try to go for it.
But it's not necessarily hard to get 5 of one kind.
No, you could do it.
And I didn't mention that in the rules, but if you're a Raven, you can actually turn back into a human if you get 5 of one kind.
Or one of each, right?
And for me, that's one of the best things about this game is you're never out of it. I mean, many games you're eliminated, they're like, oh, you're eliminated, but we'll let you keep playing and you can do some piddly things. You're pretty good as a Raven.
Right.
You can spoil people, peck people to death. You can win as a Raven, and you can turn back into a human, and you can play those special cards. You're never out of it.
Right.
I mean, it's probably a little harder to win.
Sure, it's pseudo-elimination, but you are actively still trying to win. You are actively pulling people back. You can win, even though you are, again, eliminated. From what I've read from the game designer, one of the main things they wanted to attempt to do was that. Have a game which is basically about take that and player elimination without players being eliminated. And I think from that point of view, they achieved what they were trying to do with this game. A couple of things I do want to mention. I think 6 players, which is the most you can play, is a little long for this game. I don't know if you were going to make that point
That's
as well.
exactly what I was just going to say.
Yeah, I think that's a little long. I like it with fewer, and in fact, 3, and I know you agree here with me, is excellent.
I was really surprised because drafting doesn't sound like it would work well with 3, but in this game it really does.
It really does. It's a great 3-player games. 4, once you get to 6, you might be there for a bit. And in fact, we had a couple of cards that could extend the game to an uncomfortable degree. So be aware of that. Just maybe avoid 6, unless you got all night. But otherwise, I like the powers. I like the artwork. I like the theme. This is a nice package.
Smirk and Dagger is back. I wasn't a big fan of their zombie game they came out with last year, but they're back to these games. But this is one of the cleanest ones they've done.
It really is.
This is an excellent game. Definitely check it out. I highly recommend it. Nevermore.
Nevermore.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.
Yeah?